In the summer of 1945, World War II was almost over. Europe had surrendered, but in the Pacific, the war continued. Japan refused to surrender unconditionally, despite devastating losses across its islands. American forces had fought island after island, including Iwo Jima and Okinawa, facing fierce resistance and suffering high casualties. Millions of lives were at stake if the war continued. Amid this, a secret weapon had been developed, a weapon that could end the war in a single strike. It was called the atomic bomb. In 1942, the United States launched the Manhattan Project, a top-secret program to develop nuclear weapons before Nazi Germany could. Thousands of scientists and engineers worked together at hidden labs across the country. Among them was J. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientific director of the project. On July 16, 1945, the first atomic bomb was successfully detonated in the New Mexico desert. The explosion was unlike anything the world had ever seen. The era of nuclear warfare had begun. By mid-1945, Japan was weakened but still refused to surrender. The Battle of Okinawa alone had cost hundreds of thousands of lives. The Japanese military remained determined, while civilians endured shortages, bombings, and starvation. The Allies were preparing for a full-scale invasion of Japan, which was expected to cause millions of deaths on both sides. President Harry S. Truman, newly in office after Franklin D. Roosevelt's death, faced a historic and morally daunting decision: use the atomic bomb or prepare for a deadly invasion. On August 6, 1945, the B-29 bomber Enola Gay dropped a uranium bomb called Little Boy over Hiroshima. The city was instantly consumed by a blinding flash of light and searing heat. Tens of thousands of people were killed immediately. By the end of the year, approximately 140,000 people had died from burns, injuries, and radiation sickness. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Survivors, known as hibakusha, described a silent white flash followed by unimaginable destruction. Families, schools, hospitals, and factories were obliterated within seconds. 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, a second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. Around 40,000 people were killed instantly, and the death toll reached about 70,000 by the end of the year. The bomb devastated the city and its population, leaving destruction, fires, and long-term radiation damage in its wake. The scale of the destruction and human suffering was beyond imagination. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, effectively ending World War II. The atomic bombings had accelerated the conclusion of the war, but at an enormous human cost. Combined, Hiroshima and Nagasaki accounted for over 200,000 deaths by the end of 1945. Many survivors suffered lifelong effects from radiation, including cancer and birth defects. These bombings remain among the most controversial military decisions in history. Some argue that using the bombs prevented a larger invasion and saved millions of lives, while others contend that alternatives could have been explored. The atomic bomb did more than end the war. It transformed global politics. It triggered the Cold War, initiated a nuclear arms race, and began a new era of global tension. The destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki demonstrated the unprecedented power and danger of nuclear weapons. In seconds, entire cities were destroyed, and humanity entered a new chapter of history, one that continues to influence the world today. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki forever changed the way nations think about war, ethics, and scientific responsibility. They served as a stark reminder of the potential for human innovation to both save and destroy. History was irrevocably altered on August 6th and 9th, 1945, and the legacy of these events continues to shape diplomacy, military strategy, and international relations in the modern world. The story of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is a story of human courage, suffering, and the moral complexities of war. It is a story that forces us to reflect on the consequences of power, the value of life, and the responsibility that comes with scientific advancement. It is a story that must never be forgotten, as it reminds humanity of both the potential for destruction and the hope for peace. But in the Pacific, Japan continued to fight. Despite heavy bombing, destroyed cities, and weakened military forces, Japanese leadership refused to surrender unconditionally. The battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa revealed one terrifying truth. If the United States launched a full invasion of mainland Japan, the casualties would be catastrophic. Hundreds of thousands of American soldiers and millions of Japanese civilians were expected to die. At the same time, the United States was working on a secret and highly classified program known as the Manhattan Project. Its mission was clear: to develop a new kind of weapon based on atomic energy, more powerful than anything ever created before. The project began in 1942 after European scientists, many of them refugees from Nazi-occupied territories, warned that Germany might be attempting to build an atomic bomb. Fear of Hitler obtaining such a weapon triggered an urgent race. If the Nazis succeeded first, the balance of power in the world could shift forever. Secret facilities were established across the United States, including Los Alamos. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and workers participated in the project. Most of them did not fully understand the complete picture of what they were building. Secrecy was absolute. The scientific leader of the project was J. Robert Oppenheimer, a brilliant physicist who understood both the potential and the terrifying consequences of their work. He knew this was not just another weapon. It was something capable of destroying an entire city in seconds. The science behind the bomb was based on nuclear fission. When an atom is split, it releases an enormous amount of energy. Controlled carefully, this energy can produce electricity. Released suddenly and violently, it becomes a weapon of unprecedented destruction. On July 16, 1945, in the desert of New Mexico, the first atomic bomb was successfully tested. The test, codenamed Trinity, lit up the sky before dawn. A massive mushroom cloud rose into the air, and those who witnessed it knew that humanity had entered a new era. The explosion was both a triumph of science and a moment of deep unease. Oppenheimer later recalled a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The words reflected the heavy moral burden carried by those involved. With the bomb proven to work, a historic decision now faced President Harry S. Truman. Should this new weapon be used to force Japan's surrender, or should the war continue, risking an invasion that could cost millions of lives? Japan still refused to surrender. Military leaders insisted on fighting to the end, even as resources dwindled and cities burned. The war had exhausted nations across the globe. What happened next would permanently alter the course of human history.